Should we start, sir?
I think so, because it is 3 o'clock.
Yes, yes.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Just, sir, formally, sir, I think you may welcome, sir. Sir, first I will make one introductory note. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Okay, okay. So, good afternoon to all. I have a great pleasure to introduce Dr. Anil Kakodkar, our today's guest speaker. I enjoy doing it more as a helpless personal admirer of him than as the member of the host team of this program. Dr. Kakodkar is the nuclear scientist who has been the pioneer to Indian nuclear program since the WebEx 60s to till date and put India in top league of nuclear capable nation. He is the reason for India being considered at an international level as the country with advanced nuclear technology. India could design, fabricate, and execute indigenously the complete comprehensive nuclear program. Example of that nuclear reactor Dhruva, you must have seen Pokhran 1 and 2, all kinds of weapons, nuclear weapons, submarines without any technical support from outside. He is well known for Pokhran 1 and 2, of course. In 1989, SARS acted with his technical engineering staff to bring back the Kalpakkam nuclear plant, which was on the verge of being permanently shut down due to some technical fault in the heavy water pipelines, was a major credit for India in the eyes of international nuclear technological community. Over the years, SAR held several important positions, but his tenure as director of Papa Atomic Research Center and chairman of Atomic Energy Commission saw India reach significant scientific and diplomatic milestones. SAR's moral and scientific authority and his contribution as a wise diplomat helped our nation to get the famous Indo-US nuclear deal purely on Indian terms, keeping and safeguarding the strategic autonomy of India's nuclear program, despite our country remains non-signatory of CTPT, Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, and the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. We are not the signatory, but still that deal would be possible. It is only because of SAR. He is a strong proponent of nuclear energy with the renewable energy as the replacement of fossil energy for decarbonization of our energy system. As I all know, nuclear energy is more stable and continuous. He is regarded to be a guardian and a pattern of not only our nation's nuclear program, but also our nation's higher education. He is one among the few most trusted and respected people in our country. Even at this stage, Sir is still passionate about creating and achieving the goal, not after any kind of recognition, but our nation got honored and credited by conferring this patriot, the great son of India, with the Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, and Padma Vibhushan. Now, on behalf of all of you, I request our Honorable Joint Commissioner to formally welcome our sir to deliver a talk on the title Getting into the Knowledge Era. Please, sir, over to you. Yes.
Sir, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Kannan. So this we are just probably Mr. Kannan may have apprised you. A Department of Science and Technology and Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti together have designed a program of motivating the girl students to take science as their career. The sole intention is to increase the number of women in science, which in many platform leaders like you have always been demanding for. So from the school level, as an humble system, this has been initiated. Our former commissioner, Mr. Bishwajit Kumar Singh, and an advisor in the Department of Science and Technology, Mr. Sanjay Mishra, Dr. Sanjay Mishra, together worked out this, and then we have initiated this work with the Navodaya schools. Around 58 schools have come into the fold with support for 2,500 children. This probably we thought that inspirational talk by the legends like you will definitely give the necessary proof for the children that to choose science as their career. That is how we are reaching you, sir. children, you will be really happy to know that Sir's passion for children has been recognized all over the country. In addition, I can recollect way back 15 years ago, when we 5 years ago, when we just requested Sir to address the students, and he readily accepted and came down to Goa from Bombay and remained with us for one full day and interacted with Navodaya students. I was just apprising about the capacity of Navodaya students. Sir, the students have been exceedingly performing well in the academics, and therefore we consider that they are the most appropriate audience for you to listen. I don't want to take a time between a high-powered scientist and the highly demanding children. I, on behalf of all the children, Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti, Commissioner Navodaya Vidyalaya, and these 58 schools across India, take this privilege of inviting you, welcoming you to this meeting, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for accepting our call. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Can my PPT be shared on the screen?
Varmaji, please. Yes.
Yeah. You can get the first slide and make it a full screen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can make full screen. Very good. So, Honorable Joint Commissioner, Honorable Principal, Principal Kannan of this school at Bagalur, dear students, and also principals, faculty, and students from other schools who may be a part of this particular event. First of all, let me express my compliments to all of you. We all are talking about a kind of a collective effort of students, effort of teachers, effort of the administrators, and indeed the country as a whole, to take India to the position of preeminence, number one position in the world. And that is very important. And I don't have to tell you that education or knowledge is a key parameter for realizing that. And so, as I get this opportunity to talk to our children, I thought I will use this subject, getting ready for knowledge era, for this particular lecture. I recognize that this is a part of an ongoing series under the Vigyan Jyoti Meet Online, and it's let's say devoted to motivate children, particularly girls, in terms of learning science and going forward, taking to science as a career. So basically, I'm going to talk about what is the importance of good education, and more particularly, what is the importance of science education in an overall context of taking country to its logical place, and that is number one position in the world. So that's broadly the theme I'm going to talk about. Can we go to the next slide? Yes. Now, you must have heard many times over that traditionally India is an agrarian country, country based on agriculture. Now, this is still true. And I think everywhere, world over, everywhere, all countries, when the humanity and the human development began, it began as an agrarian society. Of course, there were earlier eras, and I don't want to go into that. But essentially, if you talk about maybe 1500 years or 200 years history, everything began as an agrarian society. And this figure, I hope you are able to see this figure, but the orange part of the bar in this different bar, each bar is for a respective year, and it starts from the year one according to our calendar, and it comes very close to the current times. And you would notice that the length of that orange bar, in the earlier times, it was the highest, and that orange bar represents India. So compared to all other countries in the world, India's GDP, the height of this, of course, they're all normalized to 100%, but you get the proportionate GDP of different countries according to the length of these bars. And you would notice that in earlier years, India's GDP was the highest in the world in the agrarian era. Of course, India's history shows that while we kind of did so well in agriculture related technologies and all, but we also did very well in other areas. For example, agricultural implements, or for that matter, in terms of textiles, the muslin of Dhaka and what I'm sure you have read about that history. So, or for that matter, in iron and steel, and those who have been to Delhi or read about the iron pillar in Delhi, it's a restless wonder, and people wonder how people in those times could create such a massive. I think hold on to the previous slide, please. Yeah. So people, in India at that time, they were good in agriculture, but they were also good in technology. That's the point I want to make. They were good in steel industry. They were good in textiles. They were good in maritime. People of India have gone, they built ships and gone abroad for trade and other things. And that is what made India the #1 GDP country. Now, somewhere around the year 1700, dawned the industrial era, particularly in Europe. And we were being ruled by Britishers at that time. So, being their colony, we were the target of exploitation of our natural resources to feed the industry in Britain, and also to make sure that the Indian technology does not survive and we become the clients or buyers or market for whatever is the industrial production in Britain. Now, what was the result? And you'll see that orange bars diminishing, becoming smaller and smaller, so much so that by the time we reached, about the time we reached the condition when our independence was around the corner, our relative GDP was minuscule, negligible. After we became independent, you notice that now it has become slightly bigger. So in relative terms, our GDP is again growing, and people do respect India because our economy is growing very fast. But I want to make it clear at this point that we should not just fall into the deception of, for example, today, if you compare in dollar purchase parity terms, Indian economy is third largest in the world. Prime reason for that is because we have this demographic dividend, very large number of youth population. And they are doing something or the other. They may not be contribution at the highest end of value addition, but everybody, everybody has to earn for a living. And if you sort of aggregate all that, it certainly becomes a large number. So actually the ambition as Indians, our ambition should be that per capita earning or even per capita GDP of Indians, we will make comparable to the best in the country, best in the world. And which in turn means that our GDP should be, for example, if you take a country like United States and it has certain GDP, our target of GDP should be the GDP of United States divided by population of United States multiplied by Indian population. That should be our target for GDP, and that is what we need to work for, because that is where India will become #1 country in the world. At the same time, every Indian would be able to be, would have the capability and the quality of life comparable with the best in the world. Now, unfortunately, while in the agrarian era we were doing so well, as I said, in the industrial era, we could not cope with it. There are many reasons for that. But let us not worry too much about that. That past is past. But now we know that we are in the knowledge era. And in the knowledge era, uh, the knowledge-based technologies, they play a big role, huge role. And knowledge-based technologies, they are, they permit a lot of decentralization. So you can decentralize economy. You don't have to concentrate into big factories in cities or in such things like that. Certain big factories may be essential, but by and large, the economic activity can be decentralized. And also knowledge technologies, they allow you to democratize. In the sense, you must have seen Wikipedia, for example. It's a huge storehouse of knowledge. Of course, you have to judge how much is good and how much is not so good or not well qualified. But it's a large store of knowledge. And it's all assembled together by the commons processes, different people contribute and do. And that is what the knowledge technologies can do, decentralization and democratization. So the point is, for a country like India, if you are able to embrace knowledge technologies or all the kind of capabilities that are necessary to perform in knowledge era, then there is no reason why India should not be on the top of the world. And this can happen. And knowledge technologies are also very important for us because, most of our population, larger fraction of our population lives in villages. And schools like Navodaya, Vidyalaya are doing a great job in terms of capacity building of our children in villages. Now, these children, if they are brought on par with the best in cities, or for that matter, if they are brought on par with best anywhere else in the world, then you can imagine that you can actually lead to a very rapid growth path for the country as a whole, because you are targeting a much larger number of children. But more importantly, you will also eliminate disparity in the country. There is a big divide between urban areas and rural areas. Rural areas, the income is just about half as compared to urban areas. But in knowledge era, I see no reason why rural income cannot be on par with urban income, or for that matter, more. Imagine that our youth is able to do good in agriculture, which actually actually is a forte for rural areas. Urban area cannot do much in agriculture because there is no land. There is no land for living, leave alone land for agriculture. But if through the decentralization and democratization, if we can create industrial production in villages and also in service sector activities, making of apps and all of you can make. It's not a monopoly of children in Western countries, or certainly not monopoly of children in urban areas. Everybody can do. So rural area can contribute for service sector, it can contribute for industry sector or manufacturing sector, and it can contribute for agricultural sector. So you can immediately see that theoretically there are larger opportunities in rural areas where larger population of India still lives. And so according to me, there is absolutely no reason why we should be left behind in the knowledge era, and that is what is the purpose of education, and particularly institutions and organizations like the Navodaya Vidyalayas. Can we go to the next slide? Next slide, please. Yes. Now, how does wealth increase in the country? Wealth increases in the country by value addition. If people of a country are able to do value addition better than other people, that country would be richer. Gone are the days, earlier, for example, India has lot of natural resources, and lot of people used to come to India and take away the resources, call it agriculture, call it mineral, call it other kind of resources. They would take it away from here. It happens even now from many countries where raw material resources get exported and finished goods get imported. Unfortunately, that is happening in India even now. Our resources have got significantly depleted because of this exploitation by foreign powers. But at the same time, in spite of so much of progress on technology and all, this table, if you are able to read, the second column is about imports, and third column is about exports. And you would notice, except for 3 items, where in the fourth column the remarks are shaded yellow, except for them, all items, and these are the top items of import and export, all of them, we are importing much more than exporting. In a sense, we are exporting raw material, importing finished goods, or exporting low technology and importing high technology. And so the balance of payment issue stands very high for our country. You want to be powerful, then I think you must develop capability to value add and create products which are competitive in the market, both domestic and international. And if that happens, then you will be exporting more than what you will be importing. And then the country will become economically strong. When you want a country to be powerful, of course, you want country to be militarily strong so that we can protect our landmass or we can protect our borders. But just being militarily strong is not enough. You have to be also economically strong. And for doing that, and then simultaneously, you also have other aspects which gives you what is called the comprehensive national power. Now you will find knowledge is at the root of all of them. Knowledge gives technology, technology gives different products which are useful for military, which are also useful for economy, and many other aspects which makes the country strong. So the short point is, we must prepare our children, and you are all students of 11th and 12th standard. Going forward, I'm sure most of you or everybody would go to colleges, higher education, and at higher education level, afterwards, I encourage all of you to learn to the front line, to learn the knowledge up to its frontiers as it is known up to now, and also engage yourself in some degree of research, because knowledge has become, it's a lifelong exercise, because today uh, technology changes very fast, and so whatever you learn, for example, whatever you learn in school or whatever you learn in colleges going forward or university, uh, 10-15 years down the line you will find things have changed, and then you need to learn new things for you to be relevant, for you to be competitive, and for you to be a worthy citizen of our country and also the world. And from that perspective, I think we must develop our own capability to do research and translate that research into technology products which make money or which makes the country strong. And that uh, and if you now put in your efforts, for example, many of you will uh, go to industries, go to R&D institutions, you put in your efforts and make sure that wherever our import is higher than export, you develop relevant technologies to make our imports less and make our exports more, and make sure that wherever there is a green remark highlighter, everything becomes yellow. That is what will make the country strong. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. Now I said education, but education itself is changing. You know, education now. I was talking to your principal and inquiring that now we are talking about this COVID-19 pandemic situation. So it's not safe to assemble in school. So all of you are in your respective homes. Then you have this online education, which is technology. 10-15 years ago, one could not have thought of such a possibility, but today it is possible. We have a big network of television. So network of television, people having their own laptops, their own iPads or other pads, tablets, people having smartphones, and you know the family, the parents participating in the education process. So parents, teachers, schools, and this new education technologies. Communication is one part, but there are other technologies to go with that. And I will not, in this slide, there are many technologies which are becoming important for education, emerging trends and concepts. If you read that column, they're all listed there. And similarly, there is a listing of future technology. There are some which are not have become so popular now, but going forward, they will become popular. So when I'm saying technology products, because education is so important, because you have to deal with large number of students and create access to all of them, regardless of their economic status, regardless of where they live, and get them the best of education. Uh, so it's kind of, education allows you to build technologies, but technology allows you to get quality of education much better and make education reach everywhere. So education technology in itself is a big domain. Uh, I don't want to take the names there. Some of you may be familiar there, but suffices that today, the class you may have online class. Now, teacher may be taking an online class. Everybody is auditing that from their home. But in the class, teachers' eyes, they move around in the class. They look at the children and they can make out who is able to follow, who is having difficulty in following, and they can ask questions. Now here it depends on if children, you take the initiative to ask, because teacher has in the current mode of online, it's rather difficult. But then there are these artificial intelligence tools, and they are being practiced in China on a very large scale. Because last time I heard, they were doing experiments with 50,000 students, 60,000 students, like that. And there, the camera where the children are sitting, it watches, and there is an analytics sitting behind it. And through the algorithm, it can make out whether children are able to comprehend or not, and give a feedback to teacher to sort of, teacher the student on such and such identity or such and such computer or such and such smartphone. Maybe you should ask a specific question because the student is having some difficulty. That is the change in technology, and we should to do that very fast, because the problem of education in India, you're yourselves going on, and there may be many others who may not be as fortunate as you are to get admission in Navodaya Vidyalaya. So I think we have to take the whole country forward, and so education technology are also very important. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. Now, this is this may be little, it will become important when you go to the research stage. But let me tell you what the problem is. Many people feel that, rich countries, they can spend a lot of resources so they can develop technology. And India is a poor country, so we have difficulty in developing technology. I want to inform you that that is not true. Sir C.V. Raman did Nobel class quality research when, when India was not independent. He did not have much of facilities or much of financial resources. So but even if you want to see how many, these circles on this figure, they represent the amount of money different countries are spending on research and development. And there is a circle close to the origin, to which that arrow is pointing, arrow which talks about the 0.34 million scientists per million, in India. And also there is an amount, how much is being spent on individual scientists. Now that circle which represents India is actually larger. That means that we are spending more money compared to countries like Israel. Look at their circle when you locate this Israeli circle, or Canada, or Sweden, or UK, or Switzerland, or Finland, and a few other countries. So we are spending more money than these countries. Now you look at, again, I talked about import, export. The technology products, how many we export to them and how many they export to us. And you would find that they are exporting more to us than whatever we are able to export to them. And which means that although we spend more money on R&D, we are not able to compete with these countries who spend actually less money than us. And in terms of individual spending also, the per full-time equivalent spending in India is comparable. It may be a little less, but it's comparable. It's not as it is insignificant compared to other countries in the world. And so I think we have to be as responsible citizens of this country, or as responsible students of this country with a lot of aspirations. We have to make sure, we have to think why, in spite of the fact that the taxpayers of our country is spending so much of money on us, we are not able to collectively do as much. Some of you have done extremely well, and we are all very proud about that, and we want more of you to do that. But I think I'm talking about the collective, India as a whole. And I think we must be able to do that better. And so, can you go to the next slide? So when we get into research and development, Go to the next slide. So when you talk about research and development, we have to decide. I told you about one way of choosing what to do in research is to look at export import, other ways to focus on education technologies. But there could be many other areas. The research, next slide, please. Yeah. Now, so where does our research lie? You can, decide that on the basis of two parameters. One parameter is the quest for fundamental understanding. You do research to push frontiers of knowledge. And, right from the early years, humankind is different than other animal world because we can think, we can observe, we can correlate, we can do experiments, and we have tried to understand nature. So the whole development is on the basis of human understanding, fundamental understanding. So that is one important objective of doing research. And that is represented on the y-axis, the red line. The other objective of research is, when you do research, you want to convert that into technology. Some country invented wheel, some country made one step further and then they made bullock cart. Some country made a car, some country made a railway engine. And depending on use of this science and technology, that society became more and more powerful. So you develop research or you carry out development on the basis of research for some benefits, for some consideration. So consideration for use is also an important objective of research. Now in this, where should we locate our research? So can you go to the next slide? Yeah, so as I said, you could locate your research, which is, you don't worry about the consideration, but you locate your research where you certainly contribute to the fundamental understanding, pure basic research, which is curiosity driven, pure voyage to discovery. And that's the characteristics of fundamental research. And so it has been in the particular author who made this figure, he calls it the Bohr's quadrant and says that this research which lies here is in Bohr's quadrant because that's the, that represents the kind of research work do. Very important. Can you get the next slide? Now the next slide is where, the contribution to new knowledge, fundamental understanding should be high, but it should also deliver a lot of utility. Consideration for use also should be high. The author calls it the research located in Pasteur's quadrant, user-inspired basic research. Pasteur could not have done what he did unless he understood things in fundamentals. But he did that because he had a problem to solve, a problem of practical utility to solve. So it is user-inspired basic research, and that amounts to work that locates the center of research in an area of basic scientific ignorance that lies at the heart of a social problem. And so the author calls it the Pasteur's quadrant. And you will recognize that it's more important to locate your research in Pasteur's quadrant because it is driven by the quest for fundamental understanding, but it's also driven by consideration for use. So it serves the dual purpose. Next slide, please. The third slide is, okay, let's not worry about the quest for fundamental understanding, but I want a thing which gives me a utility product. For example, the incandescent lamp developed by Edison. And so, in fact, the research in this area, the author calls it Edison's quadrant. Now, this is actually the pure applied research which is inventor driven to solve a practical problem. And that's what the incandescent lamp work which Edison did was. And this is also very important. Next one. But the last quadrant, the author calls it the science that goes nowhere, because it doesn't contribute to quest for fundamental understanding, nor does it contribute to consideration for use. So what is the utility of this science? People still do such research because their end goal is other than curiosity or application. The end goal is because there is some requirement for my promotion or for my PhD thesis, or some such. If I have to become a professor somewhere, I must have done so many publications and so on. Now, this actually amounts to science that goes nowhere. You can also have research in other quadrants and you can still become, meet all those criteria. But if it is on the basis of research which goes nowhere, then that is of zero value. And so the author puts, next slide, please. Next slide. I think you should shun that research and also try to push the work that you do in Bohr's quadrant to see if there are applications, and push that work also in Pasteur's quadrant. And also, next slide, please. Also, the work that you do in Edison's quadrant, you must push to Pasteur's quadrant. So, children, I think when you do research, think about this, that whatever research you are doing, whether it is contributing to some new knowledge. There is no point in doing something which others have done and be under the illusion that I am doing research. You must do experiment, because that is how you learn. So as a part of learning teaching process, you have to do experiments, you have to do kind of work so that you understand the process of doing science or process of doing scientific research. But when you actually get into research, you must be very clear where you want to locate your research, and preferably remain thinking of the Pasteur's quadrant. I think everything is important. All the other three quadrants, the Bohr's quadrant, the Edison quadrant, and of course the Pasteur quadrant, all the three quadrants are important. But if you are working on Bohr's quadrant or Edison's quadrant, you must also remain conscious that you must link up such that your work tends to push into Pasteur's quadrant. And that is what will make your research important. That is what will make your research to contribute to overall development of the country. Next slide, please. Now, if a research or a result of your research is to contribute to the society or to industry, basically you should be able to solve a problem that exists in reality, that exists in the real life situation. Now, problem in a real life situation is not the problem of a particular discipline or a problem of a particular subject. When you're wanting to go deep in a subject, quest for basic understanding, then of course it's a problem of that discipline. But if you're talking about problem of a society or a problem of an industry, then it's a problem, and you need to bring different disciplines that are relevant to solve that problem, to bear on that, to solve that. So there is a distinct difference between the research that is lying in Bohr's quadrant and the research that is lying in Edison's quadrant, or more importantly, research that's lying in Pasteur's quadrant. And so if you want to solve a real life problem, you have to get into a habit of group research. Now, we all talk about multidisciplinary research, but multidisciplinary research to solve a real life problem is the kind of group research that we are talking about. And you would find, leave aside IITs and some of the better institutions or universities, but most of the education institutions in our country, if you see in this figure, it's more or less the same figure. Can you get back the slide? Can you get back no, I want that university slide. Next one. Yes, that is the one. So if you look at this figure, the part on the right hand side is what is an ideal situation. But the part on the left hand side is by and large the situation about universities in India. I think as far as the individual research is concerned, the bottom half of this figure on both sides, it's more or less same as what is existing abroad. But the difference really lies in the upper half, which is practically missing in most of the institutions, barring a few. So, and that's where, it has become very competitive. Those are the big institutions. Everybody wants to go to IIT. So there is a huge rush to pass that JEE mains and JEE advanced and all. And that is because these are the institutions which make impact. So my short point at this stage to all of you is to remain kind of alive to this situation and go to higher education institutions which will allow some activity which is done in a group, which will allow interdisciplinary work, because that is what will prepare you to do research which can carry the development of the country forward. Next slide. Now, many times, you get into, for example, many of you may be wanting to do engineering, for example, or for that matter, medicine, professional courses. And even after doing that, many of you may get into doing research. But the research institutions you are likely to get in, by and large, would be where, these are applied research institutions because you are approaching through professional programs. But you can do many of these things also in pure research institutions, fundamental research institutions. And, you must have heard this term, disruptive technology or out-of-box ideas. Now, out-of-box ideas can happen everywhere. But just to understand this, I have given an example of transportation. And you can do research in terms of transportation, for example, railroad transportation, and progressively improve. We are also talking about it in our country, improve the speed of our trains. Go to 100 kilometer per hour, then go to 160 kilometer per hour, go to 220, 250 kilometer per hour, or go to bullet train 300 or 500 kilometer per hour. Now, these are incremental research where you can follow the traditional path, traditional technologies, keep improving them, refining them, and reach that level. But if I ask a question that can a technology like maglev, magnetic levitated train, can it come out of such an environment? I would say not very likely. But on the other hand, if there is research going on in electromagnetics in a basic research institution, maybe somebody can get a crazy idea from there that, okay, I can use electromagnetics to levitate. And we always show, as a part of your science festivals or science events, you might have seen this levitation and things like that, magnetic levitation. So you can think, okay, I can make a train out of that. Now, if you remain on basic research plane, then you can get that idea, but you cannot take it forward. On the other hand, you can, if you remain on applied plane, then you can get a bullet train, but you probably cannot get a magnetic levitation train there. But then if you look at these two things together, in the sense somebody doing basic research in electromagnetics still take interest in how to apply it, how to engineer this. And if somebody who has done engineering and mechanical engineering, transportation engineering, but still wants to do fundamental research, you can certainly take ideas like maglev and take it forward to realization. And that is where the group research, where people form a group of complementary people, dissimilar people, people with dissimilar capabilities, and decide to work together. That is what is important. And we must create groups like that. Unfortunately, by and large, culturally, our mindsets are by and large isolationist. And there are deep cultural roots, and I will not go into that. But I have to tell you, young children, young students, that this is very important. I think you have to elevate yourselves to sort of, go to a level where you can be liberal, look beyond the domain in which you are working and engage, and that is how group research can be flourished. Next slide. I may take another 15 minutes, please. So next slide is, many times we feel that, okay, I have developed something in the lab, or I have developed a prototype, proof of concept, shown it in our science festival. I got a certificate also. But then I'm not able to commercialize it. Nobody is supporting me. Now, and then, some of the students, they get demotivated or discouraged. There is nothing to get demotivated. These are all hard realities. If you read management books, and some of you I'll encourage, particularly those you get into the colleges, as aside extracurricular activity, read some management books. There is a term, or you can search it in computer, Google. There are terms like valleys of death. And when you have to translate research into technology, you have to negotiate several valleys of death. In this figure, 3 valleys of death have been depicted. And so you have to be able to negotiate these difficulties, which may occur from taking an idea into prototype. There are even bigger kind of hurdles when you have to negotiate or take prototype to a manufacturing stage, and also much wider gaps to negotiate when it comes to taking it from manufacture to real life use, marketing issues and things like that. So these things cannot be done just by the lab. These things cannot be done just by the government. These things cannot be done just by the industry. There has to be this partnership between government, academia, and industry. And it is this partnership together that will take place. And you remember, so you must always remember to locate yourself in a good ecosystem where there is an atmosphere which gives you strength to negotiate these valleys of death. And that is what will take you to success. I just want to highlight, next slide, please. Now, I just want to highlight this point. For example, in United States, a group had done a survey to look at the number of immigrant founders of billion-dollar startup companies, and which was the origin of the countries of their origin. And they found that India has provided the maximum number of billion-dollar startups, such founders. Now, recognize that the number of people who have gone to US, maybe whatever, but there is a larger number of students here, and they are also as good. Just because somebody gets admission to IIT doesn't mean that somebody who misses admission to IIT is very inferior. Similarly, just because somebody who has gone to US doesn't mean that somebody here is any inferior. And so the question is what I was telling you in the previous slide. We need an ecosystem where you are able to negotiate that. In United States, I think they have created that ecosystem. So Indians who studied here, they flourish when they go there. We need to create such ecosystems. So all I'm trying to say is, we need to create such ecosystems. 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 We need to create such for your studies and research, find out such locations and focus on those locations and the work there depending on your interest, and recognize that, don't go by only where I get maximum pay package or something like that. Many of them I have found, they get into a burnout situation 10-15 years down the line. They think I have earned plenty of money, but I'm very unhappy and I don't know what to do. And don't let that happen to you. Money is important. You earn good money, but I think you should have higher aim in life. The last slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. Now, I told you all this, which is applicable everywhere. It's applicable to children living in cities, children living in villages. It's all general. But as I told you in the beginning, we need to focus on rural education. We need to make the youth in rural areas more competent. Now, so just like I talked about this ecosystem, we must also have a good ecosystem for innovation in rural areas. Now, you can't be building innovation ecosystem in rural areas, which is more akin to urban situation. So that doesn't help, because you're neither here nor there. You must build an ecosystem in rural areas which is relevant to rural situation. So for example, if you have the education environment, the schools, the colleges, the research institutions located in rural areas, and are engaged with the rural people, rural society, rural farmers, agriculturists, entrepreneurs, and NGOs, if they all work together and deploy technologies. For example, just to give you an example of a modern technology many of you might have heard. For example, for efficiency in water use in agriculture. So what really happens is, if you have a ground which is perfectly level, then water gets distributed very well, depending on how you bring that water. You may bring it by sprinkler, you may bring it by drip irrigation, or you may bring it by canal, or it may simply rain-fed irrigation. Now, you must be clear how your field must be. Too much of uneven thing is, of course, creates trouble, but then you should be able to create terraces if that is the situation. But depending on whether the holding that water is more important or drainage of that water is more important, or a combination of two is more important, you can shape your agriculture fields appropriately. Now, doing this manually is very difficult, but you can easily have a laser instrument and attach a sensor and laser combination. So you have stationary piece and attach to your tractor, and it gives a benchmark, and then you can program it to create either a completely level field or create a slope depending on what you want to design. And just move the tractor and it will simply create the ground like that, and you will get very good field prepared for your agriculture. This is one of the applications of technology which is already happening. Or you can use drones, for example, or there are applications in for example, waste management. You can get energy from residual agri waste. So these are all new technologies which can contribute to a lot of new income, both to people who provide that technologies, and it will be people like you who will provide that technology, and also to people who will make use of those technologies. So what will happen is, if there is a problem of technology implementation, you are there to solve it. The other colleges and institutions are there to solve it. If you think that in the ground somebody says, no, but there is another problem, you can immediately identify that problem and create a group to solve that problem. So like that, you can have a new ecosystem where, and of course, you can have all this digital marketing and all, which is already going on. Take it to the next level. So as I said earlier, you can make a whole change to rural economy through service sector activities, through manufacturing, 3D printing, while you're doing other things, just like you talk about allied activities. One of the allied activities is I also have a 3D printer, get the file for manufacture from the whosoever wants it in the city and make the parts and supply. So, and that suddenly the income will go up, and that is what we should be aiming at. So, the short point that I wish to make is I think we need to, what they say, bring Lakshmi, Saraswati all together along with the society. And that, when that happens, you get into an enlightened society. Right now, what is happening, last slide, right now what is happening is we are actually driven by Lakshmi. And so the mindset of people, all next, yeah. So the mindsets are that of a transaction mindset. You give me this, I'll give you that much commission, and I'll sell that to somebody else. Now that doesn't take you very far, because as I said, the people who win are the people who do big value addition. So if you bring knowledge together with this, then of course you will add values, both in terms of product, but also in terms of your own human values. And that will lead to wisdom. And we need to move towards an enlightened, wise society. And that is what knowledge is expected to do. And I would expect all of you to think about this. Choose your different career paths in terms of further education and also further actual work that you want to get into. And let me wish you all the best and great success in making big contributions to make India #1 country in the world. Thank you very much.
Sir, some questions from children, sir.
Sure. I'll be very happy to answer.
Yes, sir. Sir, actually, this Akruti program, they started in Maharashtra. Can it be expanded to other states also?
Yes. See, the point is, sir, Akruti program is not a program of government.
Okay.
Akruti is a concept,
sir,
and where we bring in technologies.
Sir.
And it's actually a concept created when we were in BRC, and BRC is still aggressively following it.
Sir,
and you can, in fact, any NGO or even at the school level, you can write to BRC, and there is an Akruti technology package where you can get that, and they can train the local people, and they can make use of this technology. Okay. Now, going forward, what we should do is that create that ecosystem. And that ecosystem consists of technologies, that is Akruti package. It consists of the knowledge institutions participating in this program, along with the local people who are going to work on the livelihood, and and bring in technology, knowledge, research, everything together. So, we are talking about knowledge era. So the new age society is going to be quite different. Just like, we are talking about online classes, school. It's a new age class. Or you're tending to become a new age class. Now, a new age village, which has, of course, village characteristics, but also city amenities and those characteristics. So new age village, I call it sillage. And that sillage will have several Akrutis. And that, according to me, is a eternal way or sustainable way to development. So that is what you should aim at. Akruti Tech Pack is available from BAR, but it's a concept which has to move collectively together.
Okay. Any NGO approaching for this program to park, is there anything to be paid on technological cost?
Well, actually, No, actually, I do not know the exact things. Some
Sir,
of the technologies actually they give free.
free. Okay.
And
Okay.
for the NGOs working in village, rural
Right.
areas,
Right, sir.
many of the technologies they give nearly free or at a very
Okay.
nominal
Okay.
cost.
Okay. Okay. Sure, sir. Sir, Nagabhaskar ji, any doubt is there? You were talking? Okay, please.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, actually, as you said, really that there's a lack of integration in the different disciplines.
Yeah.
Still, we
Yeah.
have a 8 compartment of particular subjects, isolation. And sir, even though now we have in the new education policy, we are trying to opt basic upon your interest, different subjects. Sir,
Yeah.
as we are just merging the different subjects, but along with it, it should also have an effective evaluation system.
Yes.
That
of course.
that is what one of
Without.
That is there.
Yeah,
Sir, sir,
I didn't mention, but one of the slides
sir.
where I showed those transportation examples, the maglev and the bullet train and all,
Yes, sir.
in between, there is a value system where how do you evaluate people in such an environment? See, for example, if you evaluate children on the basis of how many marks you get, and that is based on a set of objective questions, then you have coaching classes that tell children how to score
Sure.
and get correct answer by process of evaluation. That doesn't mean that they have
Yes.
understood things. Whereas it's very important that they understand. And so evaluation has to be a combination of problem solving, combination of understanding, combination. So we must correct that examination system. Similarly, when they go to the research level, that evaluation scale cannot be just based on, for example, a professor in a college, that professor is evaluated on the basis of how much publication you have made. Now, if you only do that and don't worry about his teaching abilities, you are not doing good job. Or if you do teaching ability and only evaluation, but there is no patent or there is no product made or commercialization, then it becomes, not much of use in terms of the Edison quadrant or even Pasteur quadrant. So that also should be a part of evaluation. So this evaluation must be designed by every institution consistent with the objectives of institution. I thought since I'm talking to children, I didn't include that, but that element is there in that slide in the center. So you may look at it.
And one more small thing, sir, the curriculum which has been framed from past 10 years on, only the basic things, some have been added and some have been removed it. And basic knowledge has to be incorporated, but along with it, what the new development, that has to also be incorporated. And we feel as a teacher, that point is little bit missing here compared to the other areas. As sir, you please enlighten us in this area.
Yeah. No, this is very important. See, the point is knowledge is always growing. Now, when you design curriculum, whether it is a school level or higher secondary level or college level, you expect certain outcomes. For example, whenever a group of people sit down for designing the curriculum and coursework, you look at what are those outcomes you expect at that stage. And then based on that, you design the coursework or design the textbooks and things like that. Now, obviously, by the time you complete education, I'm talking about, say, masters in that particular subject, whatever that subject is, you should be able to take the knowledge to the frontiers of that discipline. Now, within those years, you must decide. So you must, whatever is the past, you should be able to condense it or you should be able to remove it, because the conceptual clarity is what is more important. and make sure that within that year you take children up to that level. Now, many of things happen, they may happen. Some of things may happen in industry. Some of things may happen in society. After all, knowledge evolves because society feels some challenge. For example, we have now seen COVID, and it will impact several disciplines. And I'm sure textbooks 5 years down the line will add some new content because the whole humanity has gone through the COVID experience. Now, you want to be up to date while you're delivering on curriculum as existing now. If your learning teaching process is situated, if your learning teaching process is hands-on, engaging not just in the school or in the college or just with teachers, but also people in the society, people in the field, then they would get exposure to such things. And when they get exposure to such things, children will ask questions. And of course, because the whole society is going through that, teachers are also part of that society. So they would also be bothered. So there will be a discussion. And surely at some point of time, maybe 1 year, 2 years down the line, it will get into the curriculum. But when that gets in, something else has to get out. And one has to see that in terms of outcome, the outcome remains balanced. That's the job of education specialists. So that will happen, but we cannot be waiting for that to happen, then let it come into this, and then we will teach. By that time, then we are giving obsolete education to children. So that is where, in fact, even from concept clarity and other things, these concepts of, and they are all implemented. They were there in the original curriculum framework, which unfortunately had got severely distorted. It's also there in the new education policy, and but it must be implemented well. But I think you are absolutely right.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, one more question from children, sir.
Yes.
Our country is so rich with thorium. Are we able to use thorium fuel in a large scale? Are we having the technology and using it in a large scale? That is what.
Wonderful. I'm very happy that this question. Who has asked this question? I want to know the name.
Chat box we could get. Sir.
Oh, chat box. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Sir,
Okay.
yes,
Doesn't
sir.
matter.
Yes, sir.
Now, see, thorium is a nuclear fuel, just as
Sir.
uranium.
Correct.
But there is a difference. Uranium consists of, you can have it for creating nuclear energy.
Sir.
You want something, an element, which
Right.
is fissile. In the sense, when neutron comes and strikes it, it should be possible to split that nucleus into two parts. Now, not every element can be split like that. At the nominal energies of neutron. If I increase the energy of neutron, I can split anything.
Right.
For example, at CERN, they accelerate protons to 7 tera electron volts. And at that level, they can smash anything. But in the normal, the kind of what are known as thermal energies or even fast energies in fast reactors, there are not too many species which can split. So in nature, there is only one kind of species, or what we may call isotope, which possesses these characteristics, and that is uranium-235, which is a small fraction in the overall natural uranium. Now, but the other fraction of natural uranium, which is uranium-238, that gets converted to fissile material in a nuclear reactor. So a neutron interacting with uranium-235 causes fission, but a neutron interacting with uranium-238, that neutron gets absorbed, and then some it's sort of a chain of decay,
Sir.
that uranium-238 becomes plutonium-239.
Yes, sir.
And plutonium-239 is fissile.
Fissile. Okay.
And I'm sure all of you have heard about plutonium.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, thorium by itself does not have a fissile material. So if I cannot construct a nuclear reactor purely out of uranium.
Okay.
But if I keep thorium in the reactor,
Sir.
and if neutron interacts with thorium, then just like uranium-238 gets converted to plutonium-239, thorium, which is thorium-232, all of it,
Okay. Right.
on interacting with neutron gets converted to uranium-233.
Okay.
And uranium-233 is fissile.
Okay.
So the thorium can be converted to nuclear fuel in a nuclear reactor. So you cannot begin the program with thorium. The program has to begin with uranium. But then over a period of time, you can start irradiating thorium in nuclear reactor and convert some of it to uranium-233.
Okay.
And then you can use uranium-233 to produce energy. So what we are doing right now, and these things take time, because for making a nuclear reactor, you want ton quantities of such materials.
Yes.
So you have to accumulate these materials. So all programs begins with uranium, which we have done very well. We are actually the best in the world in as far as PHWR technology is concerned. I must inform our children that you can go to Google and ask a question, which is the reactor which has run for maximum time in an uninterrupted way. It has produced power uninterrupted for maximum time, and you'll find Kaiga unit number 1.
Okay, Indian nuclear reactor.
Designed and built by Indians. And in India, we have 33 times Indian reactors have run continuously for more than 1 year, non-stop.
So great achievement.
So our technology is world class, but right now it is based on uranium. Then we are building fast reactors so that we develop accelerated capability to convert thorium to uranium-233. And we are also developing thorium reactors. For example, we have a small research reactor at Kalpakam, Kamini, which runs on uranium-233, but it's very small. It runs on kilogram quantities of the fuel material.
Yes, sir.
So,
Anyway.
so in our third stage, thorium will play an important role.
Important. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Sir, any other questions, sir?
Yeah, you can ask one or two. Yeah,
yes, sir. One more question coming from children, sir. Sir, we have got the mastery over making nuclear reactor, designing, fabricating, and doing all such things. And we have proved in Pokhran 1 and 2 were weapons. But what about submarines, sir? Submarines.
We have mastery over submarines also.
Okay.
Arihant is an Indian nuclear submarine.
Okay, sir.
Which is designed in India. The reactor for that submarine has been made in India. So we have mastery on that also. In
that case, we will be having confidence that our security is assured.
Yes, security is assured.
Assured. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. With that note, I request my Deputy Commissioner who is sitting in Hyderabad, sir, Sri Gopalakrishnan. Just I invite him to propose a vote of thanks to our great scientist, Sir Dr. Anil Kakodkar. Please, sir. Please.
Okay, thank you.
Very good evening to you, sir. Very good evening.
Good evening.
We are really blessed today to have your august presence with JNV students and with all of us. And it is my pride privilege to propose vote of thanks to a legendary scientist in the field of physics, who is none other than Dr. Anil Kakodkar. Sir, the very basis of this Vigyan Jyoti program is getting ready for the knowledge era and also to evolve holistic learning environment leading to the enlightened society, as you have rightly emphasized. And you have very rightly enlightened the students on the significance of education in general and knowledge in particular as the key parameter for, as the most important parameter for taking the humanity forward. And in the entire discussion, you have been highlighting the importance of value system. And sir, I think you would have definitely realized when you have associated yourself for the first time with Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti in the Regional Science Congress at JNV South Goa, that we do stand for these values. And that is the most important area of Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti, where values are integrated with education. And your inspiration to the girl students of JNVs will definitely have long-lasting impact on them to make India #1 in the world during the knowledge era, as you have rightly aspired. And your reflections on the modern strategies like adaptive learning, adaptive teaching, collaborative and social learning are path-making ideas to create vibrant learning environment for these students. And I'm sure all those teachers who are watching this program will definitely get benefited with these ideas, sir. And the concluding idea that sustainable block development is the key for holistic development. And I am sure, and we are on the job, and with your blessings and enlightenment, and we are going to take this forward as an integrated approach for making these children not only versatile in a respective field, but also to make it as a holistic approach, and it should be sustainable. And as you have envisioned that these girl students who have been specially chosen to associate more with STEM education is, and your interaction has been a blessing at the right time, sir. And I am sure your ideas will be definitely imbibed by all of us, and we will take them forward. And our words are inadequate to pay respect to you for spending your valuable time with us. And I am sure, and this is only a beginning for a better future, and we will be blessed if you can associate yourself with Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti, especially in promoting science education for the benefit of this